Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Ben Backus.
And I'm Kevin Paulin, and welcome to the Falling Up Podcast, where we have conversations about turning obstacles into opportunities. And on today's show, we have the pleasure of being joined by Dr. Matthew D. Paterna, owner and clinic director of Shoreline Family Chiropractors.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Paterna and being able to cover everything from how he got into medicine to founding his own large chiropractic office in West Haven, Connecticut. So without further ado,
welcome to the Falling Up Podcast.
So when we met with Chris and had Chris on the show, he was very adamant that, hey, you gotta have Dr. Paterna on. So we are nice. Very, very grateful. And he definitely didn't call you Dr. Paterna. That's not how he referred.
He never calls me that.
Yeah.
What do you call you? Doc?
Matt.
Oh, Matt?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
We're good. We're friends.
I got you.
You guys can call me Matt, too. It's fine.
Well, I was going to say, that's how you introduce yourself. So,
yeah. No, that's fine.
I got you.
You could introduce me to others as Dr. Paterna.
I got you. Keep them in line. I'm going to keep the others in line.
Then it's Matt.
Right. You got to break that. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
So it's where I'm really kind of curious is just jumping into the story a little bit and figuring out when did you know that you wanted to become a doctor?
Good question. So we're just talking right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can go in any direction you want to. So you can.
Fine. I'll give you the background. So when I was 24 years old, and I'll share this when we're live. When I was.
We're live now, right?
We're live.
Yeah, we're rocking and rolling.
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
All right. So when I was 24 years old, I had my first chiropractic experience. I didn't even know what a chiropractor was until I was 24 because no one in my family ever went to one. I heard about them. People, you call them quacks and whatever, but I never went. So I woke up. I couldn't feel my legs. I was in severe pain. And, I basically went to my local doctor, my primary doctor, and she said, well, you have sciatica. And she gave me some pills, and I was like, okay, I'll take them. And I didn't really ask too many questions because I trust my doctor. And she says, yeah, it's a new drug just came out. This is 1995. It's called Oxycontin or oxycodone. And I said, okay, I'll take it. Didn't think twice about it. Month later, I went back. She gave me another 30 pills. And I took them, and she's like, how you feeling? I'm like, I'm feeling a little better, but, still having some pain. So she gave me another 30. Went back another month later. And same thing, how you doing? I'm still sore, but much better. She's like, well, just take 30 more. Now, again, at this time, these drugs were not addictive, at least according to the experts, right? So I take another 30. So now we're 3 months into this, and I'm feeling better. But now I'm starting to develop all these other symptoms. I'm sweating a lot. I feel like I'm anxious. So I go back to her and she said, how you doing? And I said, back pain's doing a lot better, but now I've got my heart's beating a lot. And she says, well, you have social anxiety disorder. And she puts me on Zoloft, another new drug that came out in 1995. And about 3 or 4 weeks into that, I'm driving on the highway and I say to myself that I want to drive off the road. And right before I do that, I pull over, start to cry, I break down. And thankfully, I call my dad. My dad's like, I'm going to come get you. And we're driving home. And my dad, a month earlier, was in a car accident, the smallest car accident known to mankind. And he winds up in a chiropractic office. And my dad's like, why don't we go see the chiropractor? So I said, I don't care who you take me to. I just need to get better. So he took me to the chiropractor the next day, and I just sat there and just watched. Didn't ask any questions. Just watched my dad get adjusted. And I said, "Do you mind if I give that a try?" And he said, "Sure. Hop on the table." And, the guy jumped on me. I heard a bunch of noise come from my body. I'm like, I got up and I'm like, oh, I feel a little better. Nothing crazy, but I felt better. Went home that night. I woke up the next morning and I felt like a new person. I was able to breathe through my nose. I slept the entire night. And usually I was the type of person that would wake up like 5, 6, 7, 8 times a night. I'd be thrashing in my bed, I would
Tossing and turning.
Tossing and turning. I never slept normally. I always had I sounded like this. I was always nasal. I woke up and I'm like, I can breathe. I was like, that's weird. So I went back to the chiropractor later that day and I said to him, what the hell did you do to me? Mm-hmm. And he said, I adjusted you. I said, well, what the hell does that mean? He's like, well, it's simple. You had pressure on your nerves. I took pressure off your nerves, and now your body's working better. And I said, holy shit. Can I swear?
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah. You see, I didn't even flinch. I cursed right with you. I'm a sailor. Don't even worry about that. Yeah.
I don't know if it was a PG or not. So I said, holy shit. I had no idea. I said, so how do you become a chiropractor? And you're like, what is it, like a year or two? I had no idea. And he's like, no, it's 4 years of school. It's like medical school. I said, cool. I said, well, what do you need to get into chiropractic school? He's like, you need pre-med. I'm like, damn. I'm like, I got a business degree, but I don't have pre-med. And he says, well, then you probably add another 2 years. So I'm like, so 6 years? He said, yeah. I said, I'm in.
So in that moment of getting a job, is there any way to explain that more? Because it's that there seems like there has to be more. Yeah. From the outside looking in, it's like, wow, you just had this experience and immediately it was, this is what I want to do.
And by the way, this is not like I wouldn't say like you go to the chiropractor and all of a sudden your life is going to immediately change. Like that's not the typical reaction. But for me, it was. So what happened is that he identified areas that were out of alignment. He started to correct them. And then I continued. Like I went to see him fairly regularly for a few months and, I kind of got myself sorted out. The part that I left out was that leading up to all of this, that 3 months where I was taking those pills, like I wasn't just taking 1 or 2, I was taking like 3 or 4,
sure.
And it started to get to the point where as she started to take me off of them, that didn't go so well. And that's really what that anxiety was. Right. That wasn't anxiety. That was me like being
opioid withdrawal.
Withdrawal.
Yeah. And I was never the type of guy that did like those types of drugs. Yeah, I smoke a little pot here and there and party with my friends, but never I never went that direction, and it got bad.
Yeah.
Really quickly. And I can absolutely sympathize with anybody who's ever been down that road. Thankfully, that road for me ended very, very quickly, and it didn't go too far down the road, but I went down far enough to know why people don't make it back.
What were the kind of the guardrails in place that allowed you to only go as far as you did?
I've always been a control freak about my body, and I've always been the guy that, like, from a young age, I've always been social. So I've always, I've been going to parties since I was, 14, 15, 16 years old. I would drink, I would smoke a little pot, but I never, I can maybe count on, one hand how many times I lost control of myself or, got too drunk or I never passed out. Like I'm never that guy. So I've always had like a barometer in my body, and I've always been the guy that was like, I love life. Like I would never. So the fact that I thought that I wanted to kill myself was scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I have always been in the control of my, and I still am. Like I never let myself get too far in the wrong way. I'll have a drink or two, but never like 5 or 6.
Right.
Moderation. I'm a chiropractor. I like everything nice and even. Like right in the middle.
So I think these are really interesting points to reflect on, especially for the listeners, where from what I'm hearing is this idea that when I recognized that I had this true personality change is when I realized, hey, I'm going in a direction that I don't want to. Right. And based on probably many factors, you were able to really reel that back in. But then also having this really profound experience with the chiropractor where it alleviated probably a lot of the physical pain that the opioids were originally supposed to do, but then started creating more pain with withdrawal and things of that nature.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. We were able to actually identify what the source of the problem was, because from the time I was 16, I was having this issue on and off. Never got to this point where it got so bad where I couldn't get out of bed, but I've been seeing physical therapists. I was a baseball player. Okay. And I was fortunate to have trainers. So in high school and in college, I played in college too. I had trainers working on me all the time. Same issue, low back pain, but never the way it got when I was 24, but it was always there. And
They throw a heating pad on you until you get out of there.
Heating pad, ice, stretching.
Yeah.
And listen, I would take nothing away from those guys because they kept me playing. Like I think I missed like one game, like, all between my 4 years in high school and my 4 years in college.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So I didn't miss that many.
That's Cal Ripken right there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't miss many games. I give them all the credit in the world.
Absolutely.
But I played through pain. And I always had pain. I always had something going on down there. And then the sinuses, and I think I took Sudafed like it was like candy. But I haven't touched that stuff in years.
So talk to me a little bit about that, because that is actually a note I jotted down right away, where you said, hey, I woke up and I was able to breathe.
Yes.
Can you speak to that in general, and maybe shine a little light on why you weren't able to breathe and then all of a sudden were able to breathe?
Yeah. I mean, apparently growing up, well, let's go back for a second. So everything in your body is controlled by nerves. There's not a single part of your body that doesn't have a nerve going to it. Again, this is not stuff that they teach you when you're in elementary school. No. It would be nice if they did. I always tease and say if your spine was on your face, you would take better care of it.
I hear that. I took shitty care of my spine, and it's a 2 right now.
But the fact that it sits back here, you don't think about it. You kind of just take this thing for granted, right? So no one told you that everything in your body is controlled by nerves. So think about go back for a second and think about, if you're just an average kid, think about how many times you fell. Like, or you roughhoused with your friends, or you went on a roller coaster, or you got into like a minor car accident, or God forbid you got into a major car accident. Maybe you played a sport or two, right? Think about how many times your body slammed into the ground, got twisted, got whiplashed. There's so many million. How many times you fell asleep like this? I mean, like,
oh man, that crink in your neck when you wake up. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and now we're tethered to this thing that we look at all day long, and our heads are down like this, and then we ask ourselves, at the end of the day, man, why's my neck always hurt? Why do I get these headaches? Or if your spine goes out of alignment, it's putting pressure on those nerves, and if that nerve is going to your sinuses, you're going to have a sinus problem eventually. If that nerve's going to your digestive system, you're going to have a digestive problem at some point. Whether you're 6 years old, 16, or 60, at some point it's going to happen.
That is... I'm like, again, have like goosebumps right now. So I broke my back in 2011. And so I'm paralyzed from the chest down. And over the past, I want to say, year, what I would consider allergies, right? Where like all of a sudden I'm always stuffed up. I'm always congested. I do a ton of breath work. I'm a really big, my life, when I can breathe through my nose versus not breathe through my nose, is two different levels, right? Sure. So saying that rings some bells, where especially over the past, I want to say 6 to 9 months, it's gotten increasingly worse. Yeah.
You're getting adjusted before I leave, just so you know.
I'm with it. Yeah,
keep the cameras rolling too.
That's pretty remarkable. Because I never would have thought of that ever.
Yeah, me neither.
Not in a million years. And the sad thing is that the medical community knows about this, and shockingly, they don't share it with everybody. The younger medical doctors today are actually very keen with chiropractic, and they're supportive, and they do send patients. But there was an entire generation, your parents, my parents, and grandparents, and their doctors were taught that chiropractors are quacks. I was taught that as a kid. I didn't go till I was 24. Why? Because everyone in my family thought chiropractors were quacks.
So what were some of the key points that they would point to make that assumption or statement?
Just the fact that they could say it and people believed it. There was nothing. There was nothing to substantiate that at all. It was, as a matter of fact, the chiropractic profession has been around 25 years longer than the medical profession. We were established in 1895. They didn't get established till the early 1920s with the invention of penicillin and aspirin and things of that nature. So they're our little brothers. Yeah. But when they started getting bigger and they saw that there's a profession out there that actually gets people better, because again, why don't they like us? Because we get people better. And if we get people better, what do they take less of?
Right.
drugs. What do they have? Fewer visits to the doctor, fewer surgeries. You know,
Big Pharma don't like that.
they don't like that.
Yeah.
No, they don't like that at all. Now, interestingly enough, people are like, well, I don't believe in chiropractic. I'm like, well, it's not a belief system. It's a science.
Right.
It's a science, and it's always the science people that say that they don't believe in it.
Science doesn't care about belief, right?
I drop my keys in front of those people. I'm like, do you believe in that? That's gravity, right? That's not a belief. That's a law.
Right.
Like, I promise you, if I put pressure on the nerve going to your digestive system will not work optimally. It will work, but it will not work optimally, and that's true for every single part of your body. Pretty cool, right?
It is more than pretty cool. It is really eye-opening, and I would even say enlightening to be able to have that knowledge.
Yeah.
And in this whole conversation also, it's just the power of ignorance and how many things that we still operate under assumptions today based on generations of just throwing shit at a board and hoping it sticks.
Right.
And then just being like, oh no, this is the way it is. And one that comes really clear for me, like following the history and drugs have always been a fascination of mine. And just seeing the views that we have on certain drugs today versus other drugs and how they are so archaic, right? And they're not founded in any evidence, but we have laws where, I mean, the amount of individuals who are incarcerated today for even, mention smoking weed, like there's still over 70,000 Americans in prison today for not selling, but personal use. And then you look at what happened with the crack cocaine laws versus powder cocaine laws and the like all of these things that there's no science that would back this up, but someone said, hey, this, and I'm not sure, there's a brilliant article, not brilliant, but in 1914, a medical doctor published in the New York Times an article called Southern Menaces, Negro Cocaine Fiend, something around those lines. But essentially at the time, cocaine was a very prevalent drug, mainly used by white individuals. And once it was distributed in Coca-Cola and, everyone could start using it, all of a sudden it became a problem. And there was an article published in the New York Times stating that black individuals would use cocaine, they would begin raping our white women, they would become immune to 32 caliber bullets, and actually in down south they changed the gun laws for police officers to carry 38 caliber weapons based on this, right? And imagine a medical doctor stating that. People take it at face value, and today we know that is absolutely insane.
It's insane,
right?
Of course.
But it sounds like, to a degree, this is what happened with your profession.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is mind blowing how ignorance can be so incredibly powerful.
Absolutely.
Follow the money. That's all I always say. Like, follow the money. It's the money. Like again, big pharma. Like, it's, if I keep going every 30 days to get 30 pills, spend a lot more money than going once a month. Or how often would someone regularly go to a chiropractor?
At the beginning, it depends. If you have a problem and like you're having a particular symptom, whether it's pain or some sort of like digestive or breathing problem, maybe like a couple times a week at the beginning. But then as you get better, just periodically, like once a month or once every couple weeks. It really just depends on the person. On the person, right?
But still, though, it sounds like, well, not sound like, I know, like in 95 or 2000s, not so recently, Oxys were getting sent out like Skittles.
Candy. She was doing it up until 3 years ago. She was doing it. She was probably the biggest drug dealer in Connecticut. Wow. She was right in our community, and she was just giving them out like candy. So I was one of the first ones because this was when it first came out.
Right.
But this is, I mean, they knew probably since like 2008, 2009, 2010, that these drugs were not good. And they continued to put them out into the community like it was nothing. It took another, and the chiropractic community, I should just tell you, has been screaming from the mountaintops since probably the year 2000 that we got to stop this. This is no good. We have to, put an end to this, especially this particular drug. Yeah, and it's bad.
When we were speaking off camera about helping versus enabling, right? It's you guys are able to see the benefit of essentially just all natural body movement, right? Or so I'll let you speak to that a little more versus having to rely on this medication or this pill to mask a problem that it will never solve, right? I can take all like opiates or most, except for some that are mixed with acetaminophen, like aren't even going to reduce inflammation, right? They're just going to block pain.
Right. I think that's a good point. It's a good example of what medicine can and cannot do, right? And I don't ever want people to say, well, there's Dr. Paterna, he's some anti-medicine guy. I'm absolutely not. I always tell people, listen, there's a place for it. There's emergency medicine out there that will save your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not talking about those drugs. I always tease and say, if I have a heart attack, I don't want you adjusting me. Like, like don't bring me to the chiropractor. Take me to the emergency room. Give me the drugs that I need to survive, and then let's go back and talk about what led up to the fact that I had a heart attack. Why'd that happen? What was I doing wrong in my life that caused that to happen? My diet, lack of exercise, too much stress, combination of all of it. Was there too much pressure on my nerves? All of that. That's a conversation that should happen. But what's happened, if you guys really want to know what's happened.
Oh, yeah.
About 35 years ago, the United States started doing something that no other country in the world does. And I'm going to give you a little hint. When you turn on the television and a commercial comes on, exactly, 9 out of 10 times, what is that commercial for?
Drugs, whatever drug they want to sell you.
A drug.
Like, they run it through fields with 1,000 symptoms on the bottom.
Yes, you get it. You guys totally get it. So so here's the thing. The first, you already gave away the punchline.
Yeah, my bad.
The first 15 seconds is what the drug is, and then the next 45 seconds are the side effects. And while they're rattling off all the ways that the drug can kill you, what are you looking at? You're looking at a picture, right? You're looking at this beautiful picture of people dancing and swimming and flying and babies and flowers and all these beautiful images that are there to what? Distract you while they tell you how the drug is going to harm you.
This drug may make you die.
Right.
But it's okay.
Exactly.
There's a rainbow in the commercial.
That's right. There's a puppy. Look at the cute puppy. Right.
Little puppy.
So if death is one of the side effects of the drug that you're taking, you may not want to take that particular drug. You may want to find something else. Or at the very least, make that the very last thing that you opt for.
Right.
Try all the other stuff that's out there. There's chiropractors. We're not the only things. There's naturopathic doctors out there that maybe might be able to help you with like an herb, or maybe you're just deficient in a vitamin, and that's why you're having a problem. Maybe jump on a treadmill. Maybe try different things. There's lots of other ways to acupuncture and massage, and even there are medical doctors out there now that are called functional medicine doctors, and they're getting away from traditional medicine and working more towards natural solutions. But we've been deceived in a major way. I mean, if you going back to the commercials, we're the only country on the planet that does it. That's it. You'll 100%. Go anywhere else in the world, you're not going to see drug commercials. Why? Because they think that's ridiculous.
And it is ridiculous. Right? If you want to get information about a drug, you should be talking face to face with someone who can fill in all the blanks, right? And that is, I think, a prime example where Kevin talks about follow the money, and it is at what cost, and that is the hard part. And at what it doesn't benefit you. If you are any layman person, you're not going to understand what any medication does at any level. Right. So what is the actual point other than trying to get these images in your mind? So if anyone ever tells you, oh, you have XYZ, oh, I remember I saw a commercial with this. Let me talk about this, right? I don't know.
Exactly.
One thing that I want to point out is your accountability. And what stood out to me, what you just said, was if you were to get a heart attack, God forbid, knock on wood, but if you were to get a heart attack, that you would go to the doctor and then see what caused that. Right. I think a lot of the biggest issue with Americans is that if they have a heart attack, they're looking for the medicine and then going back to their regular life or their regular habits or bad habits, what have you, of non-exercise, of eating like shit, and all this stuff. And it's so much easier to pop the pill than to take the accountability to say, okay, it's my fault. Let's exercise. Let's change our diet. And I find that with most people, man, like it's just much easier to eat like shit and do nothing about it and just pop some pills and hope that something's gonna happen. So I think that's real. I just really want to point that out because that accountability, take control, absolutely, is a big part of growth.
Absolutely. I mean, and honestly, we've created a system of health that translates into life, right? Like you're saying, we were just before we went live, we were talking about the word enable, right? And we have an epidemic in this country. Besides the pandemic that we have an epidemic prior to that of diabetes, type 2 diabetes. I mean, I would say it's nearing 50%. I mean, we're talking a huge number.
And that's not talked about.
I mean, it's insane.
And it's not talked about.
It's not talked about.
And it's preventable.
It's so preventable.
It's so preventable.
It's so preventable. And
1 out of 2 people.
It's getting there. That's where it's trending. They're saying by the year 2050, that's what it's going to be. I mean, we're probably at a third right now, and we're not going the right direction. It's not getting better. Right. And the reason why it's not getting better is because they keep offering more drug solutions, and you can't out-drug a bad habit. You can't. There's no way. I mean, write that one down. You cannot outdrug a bad habit.
That's a fact.
I like that too.
And you can't.
Yeah, and you can outwork a bad habit. You can do a lot of things, but you're never going to outdrug it. No. You're never going to outdrug it, and that is something, right? Because that's having type 2 diabetes, where and it's likely, I would imagine, implying that you're overweight and not doing the most healthy things, right? Yep. And what does that also then lead to? Well, it's going to lead to mental health problems. It's going to lead to all of these other things that is just poor quality of life. Right. And simply by beginning to do some of these more natural remedies like exercise, sleep right, hydrate, eat decent, right? Not only is that going to hopefully help your medical condition, but it's certainly going to boost your self-esteem and confidence. And then who knows where else that touches, right?
Absolutely.
So how y'all feel? This is a good question for both of y'all. Yeah. How do y'all feel about methadone?
In terms of
out-drugging a bad habit.
Well, no, I think there's a situation where what's the alternative?
Right.
That's the question. I'm not going to speak to that because that's not my area of expertise.
Yeah, I'll deep dive.
That's his area.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it would just seem like that's something that you probably would do for a short period of time to get out of the crisis. And I think that's the intention of that's supposed to be the intention of every drug that's out there. The drugs that are on the market, unfortunately, today, you're not getting off of them. The intent is not to be on them for a short-term period of time. The intent is that you're going to take this for the rest of your life. Yes. I don't necessarily think that methadone was designed for that. I think it was designed for a short term. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting topic, and I look at it as defining what you want in your life, right? Meaning, if you look at the definition of recovery, it's improved quality of life. So if I've been using opiates, we'll say I've been using opiates intravenously for 30 years, right? And I'm opening myself up to all diseases, infections, things like that. And I get on methadone and I say, hey, all of a sudden I'm able to hold down a job. My family's talking to me again. My life is improving. I might be on that medication for the rest of my life, right? Because my quality of life has increased. And I've been using opiates for so long that I'm just going to ride out, the rest of my life continuing to improve and use it. But I think you're spot on in saying these drugs, the purpose of them is a medicated assisted treatment, and we want to get on and stabilize and then come off. But what often can happen too is if I'm using it because I want a Band-Aid, right? Hey, I'm dope sick. I need something to bridge the gap between my next high, essentially, and I don't want to feel like crap. Well, that the power is to the person, right? If they want to use it that way, I think they should be able to use it that way. But if they do want to use it in a way to get better, I think that suffering is necessary to recover from anything, right? Meaning that suffering is good. It's the way of saying, hey, it's that my body's natural feedback of saying I'm doing something wrong, right? To go through that, now I actually have to develop real life skills, right? And this is the part where I think Suboxone, methadone, and other medicated assisted treatments for opiates can really do a disservice to people because they don't actually develop life skills and coping skills, right? They use this thing that is going to take away the pain. Right. Whereas learning skills to essentially learn to work through the pain and keep the pain away.
I think that we've become a society that is really afraid of pain altogether.
100%.
Altogether. If you think about the generation before us, like our parents, not as cushy. The generation before that, obviously, you know where I'm going. Like all these generations had to endure some sort of pain, whether it was, the military service or just living conditions, right? We don't have that. Like everything we have in our society now is comfortable and it's satisfying and
it's instantly gratifying.
Instant gratification. And the word that I like to use is sedated. Everybody just wants to, like, if I'm having a bad day, what do I do? I go home, I pop open a beer. Well, maybe one guy pops open a beer, another guy eats a pizza.
Right. Yeah.
Or another guy grabs some weed or so, or everyone's just looking for their sedative. Some of them will just sit on their phone for 3 hours and like that sedates them.
Right.
It's this constant sedation that we're becoming accustomed to. And it manifests itself in many forms, and there are not many people out there that are willing to look at the obstacle and be like, no, I'm going to conquer that. I'm going to get through that, around it, under it, or over it. I'm going to figure out a way. And
it's the most rewarding thing in the world, and that is what. So before I broke my back, I was an avid snowboarder. Loved snowboarding, but over the past several years, I've had a ton of health problems, which has kind of prevented me from being as physically active as I'd wanted to be. But within the past couple of years, I got really into monoskiing. And this year was the first year where I became an independent monoskier. And it took quite literally busting my ass so many times, like to miserable extents, being like, I'm never going to get this. Yeah. Why can't I do it? And to be able to do it, I get to have that experience for myself. Right. Yeah. I get to have that feeling for myself, and it's special. And I hope that it's one of starting this podcast was very similar, where it's like, hey, I have something that I objectively suck at, but I want to get good. Yeah. And that process is it's annoying, it's aggravating, it's troubling, it's everything, but it is so meaningful when you time and time again, you show up and do it.
Yeah. That's it. And you just use the magic word, the process. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not the destination.
Right.
It's not the goal. If you can set all the goals you want, it's not about getting to that goal. It's about all the steps you took to get to that. And even if you never get there, it's sort of like if you're driving from New York to California. Even if you don't make it to California, think about all the places that you saw along the way and all the experiences and everything that builds you up to that point. Obviously, you got to California and you're monoskiing and you're doing it. But think about all the process that it took to get to that. That's cool. Overcoming the obstacles are what makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And there are people like you, like me, like you. If we don't have an obstacle in our life at that moment, we'll create one.
Yeah. That's right.
That is the truth, man. That is the truth.
We'd say it's sort of like our life doesn't have meaning unless we got to figure something. We got to figure this thing out. How do we do a podcast? I don't know. Let's figure it out. It's like,
that's a fact.
Yeah. So, by the way, I want to learn how to do podcasts. So that's why I'm here. I'm watching you
there
guys.
There we
go.
Hey, man, whatever we can do.
Yeah, truly. On that note, just to switch gears a little bit. So, becoming a chiropractor and then developing a business and not only a business but an incredibly successful business where you winning two Shoreline of the year and not even being on the shoreline. I would say that that says it all right there.
So we won the last 2 years. We won Best of New Haven County, and also in the same 2 years we won best of Shoreline, and our practice is in West Haven. We're not technically on the Shoreline. And as I called them up, and I'm like, "Is this a mistake?" And they're like, "No." They're like, "Actually, you have a lot of patients who live in the Shoreline who voted for you, even though you're not on the Shoreline." I'm like, "Cool." I'm like, has that ever happened before? They're like, "No." I'm like, "All right, I'll take it."
Absolutely, as you should.
Yeah.
So what was
Flattering.
that process like building this business? Was it always the goal to have your own business?
Yeah, I think starting out. So I started chiropractic school a little later. By the time I started chiropractic school, I was 27. When I graduated, I was 31. Most of the students are graduating around 24, 25. So I had about 6 years of life experience, and I worked in restaurants. My parents had a business, a telecommunications business. I give them a tremendous amount of credit. I learned a lot from them growing up. My dad was just an excellent marketer / salesperson, and he just had a wonderful way of creating relationships. And I learned that from him, I think. And he always said, "We're all in the same business, Matt. No matter what business you're in, we're all in the same business." And I said, "Well, what's that?" He says, "We're in the relationship business. If you can't create relationships with the people that you're helping, there's a million other people just like you that they can go to." I'm like, "Well, that's very true." There's a lot of chiropractors, especially where we are, by the way. There's over 100 within a 10-mile radius.
Wow.
And keep in mind, half of that radius is the Long Island Sound. So,
Wow. Yeah.
there's a lot of chiropractors in the New Haven County area and
Sheesh.
Fairfield County. Tremendous amount. So I'm flattered when anybody chooses us, and we really do appreciate it. But I learned from him, and I learned from my mother. My mother, she ran the back end of that business, and she's an engineer by trade, and so I learned a lot from them. So when I got out of school, I knew that I wanted to open up my own practice. And I'm like, "Oh, I got a business degree. I got this. No problem." And, for the first year I opened up, and I almost went bankrupt because, what I learned, 10 years prior was different than what was happening in the current business. And so I hired some people to help me out, and, consultants, and I learned a lot. The most important thing I learned is that your business is always going to be a reflection of you. And that's when I really started focusing less on doing things and more about being, and more about just, every day waking up present, ready to go, focused, having my purpose, having my philosophy, having my passion, and then putting that out into the world and manifesting it. And I mean, if people don't believe in that stuff, you really got to start thinking about, getting into some of these authors, like, or these books like Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. Start with that one, and it will absolutely change your life in terms of how you view the world. And then, I kind of built off of that, and so.
Yeah, I laughed because that's literally, we based our nonprofit curriculum on Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, you see, I'm not the only one thinking this. You guys,
listen, that book changed my life.
I want to say almost every guest we've had on has at one point or another mentioned Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's the Bible. I mean, in terms of personal development, I mean, every other book that's ever been written on personal development is based, very much on those principles.
Right.
100%.
Which are almost 100 years old. I mean, he really started that book in the 20s, the 1920s.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So that had a huge impact on my life. And
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Did you cash that check?
What? Oh, the $1 million check? Oh yeah, we've cashed it a couple times.
A lot more. Nice.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Our purpose is to help as many people as we can. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I wake up every morning and I'm just like, here we go, bring it, let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready to serve, and that's what we're all about.
That's beautiful,
So,
man. That's.
Yeah.
So what are a few tips where you say, hey, every day kind of, I really put that energy on trying to be present and get going? What is that? Is it a morning routine? Is it, can you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wake up in the morning and then I hit snooze like 6 times. No, when I get up in the morning, I mean, I allow myself one snooze, and I do that because I know that in that 10 minutes, I'm not really sleeping. I'm just kind of preparing myself, just getting my thoughts together, and then I get up. I have my cup of coffee. I never finish it. I always drink like maybe half of it. But I do my affirmation. I'm a huge believer in daily affirmations, just getting and just projecting out into the world, what I'm expecting and what I'm going to bring, every morning. And, and then if I have the time, I will stretch and I'll work out, and then I'll, head to work and see people. So
Nice.
yeah, pretty consistent with that.
Yeah. No, that's a great routine, especially the affirmations. Just putting out in the universe.
Yeah. I mean, my affirmation's long too. It's like 5 minutes, but I go through it every day.
That's worth it.
Oh yeah.
That's worth it.
Absolutely. Headspace, man. You have to have that. Yeah. It's gotta be, you gotta be positive every day. You gotta show up and be ready.
And it's an investment, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're anything like me, I'm sure there's days where it's a little harder to do the routine than others.
Yeah.
But I know each time I do it, I feel good. And when I don't do it, I feel a little guilty.
Yeah.
And I feel a little bit off. My day's a little just duller than it typically is.
Absolutely.
And that is...
Turn it up, man.
That's right. That's right. And it is... There's going to be so many times, at least in my life, where it's just like I just don't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
And finding that's where having routine, I think, is so important. At least not having to, because the days when I don't want to do it, if I don't have something lined up, the likelihood of me coming up with a plan, initiating the plan, it's very, very small, right? Yeah. But if I have the thing I do every day, it's autopilot, and I can do it even if I don't want to do it.
Exactly. That's so important. It's like brushing your teeth. Like, you brush your teeth, when you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth before you go to bed. Yep. It's just that it just follow that routine. And if people always say, "Well, I have a hard time, doing something new." I'm like, that's easy. I said, you know what you do? You attach it to the thing that you're already doing. So like, if you want to start working out in the morning, what do? You brush your teeth and then you work out. Right. Or you want to stretch before you go to bed. You brush your teeth and then you stretch. You put them together.
That's right.
Because you're going to brush your teeth.
Right.
So you've already done one habit. Now you attach the second one.
Building a routine off a routine.
That's
it's the easiest way to build a routine. It really is. Yeah.
100%.
Build a routine off a routine. I like that. Yeah.
So it's lifestyle. I mean, that's what we talk about with our patients, and that's the message that we bring. It's not about getting people out of pain. I always tease people and say, if the only reason you came to a chiropractor is to get out of pain, take Advil. It's so much easier. It's a lot cheaper. You stay at home. It's like you don't have to do anything. You don't have to get off. But if you're truly want to get better, not just better, like feel better, but actually be better, get your body working better, have more energy, then you should go check it out. See what it's all about, and see if it's good for you. So.
Yeah, I will be.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I will be for sure.
Absolutely.
100%. We should do that too. Shout out to Ryan Red Cheeks. But you should follow me in my first visit with Doc. Yeah, like a follow-up episode. That'd be dope.
I would love it.
How are we doing on time?
We're at 45.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was one other
Fire away.
piece that I was very, very interested in. I somehow drawn a blank.
This feels like that Cialis commercial.
Oh, man.
If you take this drug, you will die.
Kev, fill in the...
Well, I could talk about how our profession came under attack
Yes.
back in 2011.
And that was precisely it.
Yeah, so that's
Oh, was it?
So
Yes.
basically,
Oh, nice.
There you go. So back in 2011, and maybe you guys might remember this, but like throughout the state of Connecticut, there were billboards up saying that chiropractors kill people, chiropractors cause strokes. There were big yellow billboards. They were all over 95, 91, 84.
Damn,
and
I wasn't in
inside.
Connecticut then.
All right, well that's good because it was out there, and it was bad, and they were out there for about 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
Actually started in 2009, excuse me. We got them down in 2011. So it was like maybe 3 full years of them being up on the highway. And the reason why we got them down was my mother. My mother, who's like a true warrior, and she actually is the executive director of the Connecticut Chiropractic Council now.
Nice.
She got involved, and she started figuring out ways of getting these billboards down. We finally got them down. But you know, when Pharma puts up billboards, even though they weren't from Pharma, they were.
Right.
You know, it took a while to get them down. So we had to fight, and it was bad. I mean, people were not going to the chiropractor. And this is the reason why I put this in your episode is because a lot of chiropractors wind up closing because people weren't showing up, they were getting scared, blah blah blah, and it was a complete fabrication of the truth. You've got the same risk of having a stroke going to a chiropractor as you do going to a bowling alley. I mean,
Right.
People have strokes. I mean, sometimes it just happens to be in a chiropractic office. But I mean, if that were the case, I would say our malpractice would be more than $2,000 a year.
Right.
That's what we pay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
it's very little. But
Right.
anyway, so a lot of places were closing. But at the same time that was happening, my practice was exploding. And the reason why was because I was out there, I was on TV, I was calling TV stations, newspapers, I was getting interviewed. I was bringing attention to it, but in a positive way, and be like, hey, this is a bunch of crap. Like, let me explain to you why. And so I used it as an opportunity to not only, promote the profession, but to build the profession, because they needed somebody at that time to defend it. And so that's kind of what happened. And and after that, I wound up becoming the president of our state chiropractic council, and did that for a couple terms. And yeah, so if you can't tell, I really love what I do. I mean,
that's beautiful.
I really do enjoy it.
That's beautiful.
You get to, a job that gets to help people every day. I always say that I'm an educator. That's really what I am. That's what doctor means, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that. People always assume that it means healer.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's what did I when I first started. I'm like, I'm going to heal people. I'm not healing anybody. You're the ones that are healing. My job as a doctor is to educate you first, teach you about your body, inspire you to do something about it, right? And then give you the tools and empower you to do it, right? Because I can't be there. I can't be following you around everywhere you go, but I can give you the adjustments, get pressure off your spine, talk to you about nutrition, talk to you about exercise, and then set you back out in the world, and then check back in, in a couple weeks or a couple months, and see how you're doing. And that's what a doctor should be doing, but that's not what's happening today. Now doctors have turned into places where people get drugs. Okay, well that. I mean, we need that, but that's not what a doctor was 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years ago. So now we've kind of filled that void. We're the doctor that takes care of people and keeps them healthy. You have your other doctor that you see if, God forbid, you get sick.
Right.
Our job is to keep you away from that doctor.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, preventative.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that I have really great doctors in my life.
Good.
But I've also had really terrible ones.
Yes.
In seeing the qualities that my doctors today have, they very much align with at least how you're presenting here today, which is that's why there's it's an attraction, and it's really an incredible. It's just being genuine, actually caring, and then like you just said, being able to provide information and back it up, right? Not just there would be times where I would be having conversations and they would be using this incredible jargon that I did not understand. And I try to be like, hey, can you explain this to me? And I
hate that.
I'm fortunate for me, I don't have to settle for that.
Right.
I can be like, no, you need to explain it to me in layman's terms.
Right.
And most of the time they can't do that. And what that tells me is they don't really understand it. Right. And there are obviously some things that you can only use medical jargon to that. Like there's no other words that are but these were more trivial issues. Yeah. Where today my doctors they're incredible and they're able to break down wildly complex ideas to be able to explain it to me and give me some level of peace of mind. And already in a short period of time speaking with you, you give me that peace of mind. And that is something that I don't think that quality can, I think that's just a very overlooked quality. Like
Absolutely.
I don't know if you can train that. I think it's something that
it's innate.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's innate.
And it really comes across and
Right.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I really am.
Well, I mean, listen, your neurologist may not be as, as warm as the chiropractor that you see. I mean, but there are reasons why I'm not a neurologist or I'm not an orthopedic. I'm not that dry. That's not who I am. So most chiropractors that, that do well are really chiropractors that are able to relate and communicate and really just genuinely care.
Right.
I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is that you love them.
Yeah.
I always say if you love something enough, it'll love you back.
That's right.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whether it's your job or whether it's the people that are around you, whether it's your family, it's all about what you give. You give, it comes back. You give, it comes back. Universal law. We know this, right? I mean, it's amazing.
That's amazing.
It's true, but you put everything. So when I show up to the chiropractic office, 100% to the patients. When I leave, I go home. It's my kids, my wife, 100% to them. Yeah. Like it's just all that. It's like that present time consciousness, and you're just focused on wherever you're at. Right now, I'm giving 100% to you.
Yeah,
everything to you and your listeners.
Yeah, appreciate it too.
Yeah, absolutely,
For sure.
Love it.
And one other thing that I feel like is just important to say, because I deal with individuals all the time who, being in the mental health field, I'm dealing with a lot of very taboo topics and things that a lot of individuals can be ashamed to go to doctors with. And I guess what I want to say is, if you're ashamed to go to your doctor, get a new doctor.
Heck yeah.
And how important that
ASAP.
doctor-patient relationship is. I mean, it can be quite literally life-saving. And there was a few years ago, I wanted to have an experience with MDMA. And I went to my doctor and I wanted to be, with the spinal cord injury, all this, I just wanted to make sure that it was safe and I wasn't going to have an adverse reaction. And I said that to him and he was completely taken aback. He's like, I've never had anyone ask me that. And I'm like, that is crazy. I'm not going to use a psychoactive substance that I don't know if it's going to have an adverse reaction based on my situation, just willy-nilly. Like I want to, and he's like, yeah, I really respect that. And
he wasn't going to give you his blessing.
Yeah, it wasn't, and he didn't. Not in. It is hard because he wasn't like, yeah, go do it. But he's like, yeah, you're not at any more risk of having an adverse reaction than an able-bodied person.
Okay,
these are
that's fair.
Yeah, you're not at any more risk if you're going to do it. This is the safest way to use the drug, and he gave me really good, proper, sound education.
Sure.
But again, there's so many things that doctors work for us, right? And
supposed to.
And ideally, I guess the reason I say that is I know how important my relationships are with my doctors.
Good.
And I hope and to encourage everyone to be honest and be forthcoming, because at the end of the day, they hopefully have your best interest in mind. And if they don't, that hopefully is pretty apparent as well.
Sure.
So.
Absolutely. And don't ever be afraid to ask questions. I love the fact that you ask questions. Patients say, I'm sorry I'm asking so many questions. I'm like, no, I'm sorry when people don't ask me questions. I'm like, when you ask a question to me, it means you care. You care enough about yourself and you care enough about the process to even if you're questioning like what I'm doing, like I'm okay with that. Like if you continue to do with it.
Nah.
No, but I'm saying, like, but the fact that people are asking me questions, I love that. I think that's because I ask questions all the time. I want to know why.
Right.
The first thing I ask when someone walks into my office, why do you think you're here? I have back pain. I'm like, no. Why do you think you have back pain?
Right.
Or why do you think you're having problems with your digestive system or breathing? Like, why do you think that is? And then they'll do my job for me. They'll tell me exactly what I need to know. And then I'll be like, okay.
Let's get to work.
Let's get to work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like and that's really what it is. It's just listening.
Yeah.
It's listening to people and hearing them out. And so
But
it's
that's
great.
caring. That's caring.
That's it.
Yeah, if you care, then you listen,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It comes back to love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That self-love.
Yeah.
Or loving others.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know, speaking for Ben, helping people is what we do every day, and that's a cheat code. That's why life is so good, because giving to give, and then the benefits of it is
Exactly.
countless.
It's exponential.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I hope our listeners really, the accountability. I mean, it's so many jewels. You dropped a bunch of jewels for real. But I think that that why your practice blew up, because you care. I think that's in itself is everything.
Yeah. And sorry, you didn't run from the adversity, right? Like you faced that head on, where others were saying, "Oh, I don't have clients, I have to shut down."
Right.
You were saying, "No, I'm going to stand up for this profession," and
That passion came through.
right.
Yeah. Same thing happened with COVID. A lot of practices shut down. We didn't. We stayed open. We figured out a way. We created systems to make our patients safe and happy. And I wound up teaching those systems to thousands of other chiropractors throughout the country, doing Zoom calls for them and saying, this is what we're doing in our office. Like, because everyone else was going down. And our practice, once the lockdown was over, went screaming. We went up because we took measures that other offices weren't willing to take. And we were putting in safety measures and doing all these things to make sure the patients were happy. And, because we care. And we wanted it, and we shared it with the rest of the chiropractic profession. So,
Yeah, it's
see that
beautiful.
right there. Like,
it is. It's real.
That's so big, because well, one thing that, and like we said, like whatever you want to know, like we wholeheartedly mean that. Even with our nonprofits, our connection with other nonprofits, hey, whatever you need, we got you.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's how you win. That's how you win, because someone in your position, you're winning. You could look at them as competition. Like, I ain't helping them.
No competition.
Exactly.
No, it's not about that.
That's beautiful.
I'm one office. I can't take care of all of West Haven, all of Milford, and we get people coming from all over the state. I mean, I can't take, the state of Connecticut's got 4 million people. I can't take care of 4 million people.
Right.
But I want to listen. A rising tide raises all boats. I mean, I want to raise all the people that want to be raised.
That's right.
Right. Whether they're chiropractors, I mean, I want to bring the other chiropractors up that want to go. Milford and West Haven have a ton of great chiropractors. It's awesome. That's good. I would rather it that way than me being the only one.
Right.
I'd rather more people in the communities be seeing the chiropractor. Right. Like that's a good thing.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. That says a lot about your character.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
So we have one final question that we like to ask all guests.
Okay.
So, again, our podcast is all about helping others overcome obstacles and turn obstacles into opportunities. So if you were to be working with someone who was just really down, stuck in a really tough place, what is one piece of advice? You can give them one piece of advice, and I know it's a hard one. What would you tell them to help them?
If they were stuck in it and they want to get better?
Yeah, they're willing to take a suggestion.
Yeah. I would say have faith. I would say believe in whatever you choose to believe in. If it's God, then believe in that, and know that you have the ability to do whatever it is you set your mind to, no matter what the circumstances are. If you want it and you put it out there, it can be done. But you have to be willing to pay the price. Whatever the price is, you got to be willing to pay it. But if you want something bad enough, you'll pay the price to do it. So
Thank you,
I like that
thank
answer.
you. And also, can you just kind of fill guests in where can they find you? Where,
sure.
Yeah.
what?
Sure. I'm Dr. Matt Paterna, Shoreline Family Chiropractic. We're on the West Haven Milford border. drpaterna.com. It's Paterna. You can Google chiropractor. If you Google chiropractor in Connecticut, you'll see that we have the most reviews of any chiropractor in the state of Connecticut. So we're not hard to find. And if you're interested in learning more about what chiropractors do, I'd be happy to do a phone call with you before you come to the office, and we can just chat, or come on down and we'll take a look at you, see how you're doing. So just mention the podcast, and you got VIP.
Yeah, you hear that? Mention the falling up.
That's it. We will roll out the carpet for you.
There we go.
Even you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Oh well, yeah, we really appreciate your time, and I know I had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that was great, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the opportunity.
thanks everybody for tuning in.
All right.
Falling Up Podcast.
Yes.